waiting on Mr. Muir to get back, and when he gets back, we'll begin. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the December 15th, 2003 meeting of the Haltom City Council. To those of you who are here in council chambers, we want to welcome you. To those of you who are watching either the live telecast or the delayed broadcast of the council meeting, we want to welcome you. We always appreciate citizens being interested in the things that are happening in Haltom City. In just a moment, we're going to have the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Before we do that, immediately following the invocation and pledge of allegiance, I want to give each person here on the dais an opportunity, since this is our last meeting of 2003, and since we have the Christmas and New Year holiday coming up, they may would like to say something to the citizens of Haltom City in the way of greetings regarding the holiday season coming up. So I'll give everyone an opportunity to do that. If you would, at this time, let's stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance to be led by Councilmember Jim Sutton.
All right, let's bow our heads. Thank you, God, for the privilege of meeting together and deliberating over the affairs of this city. We thank you for your generosity in giving us that place to do that, to govern ourselves. Father, I pray your blessing upon each of the citizens, the families, the businesses, the individuals of Haltom City, the policemen, the firemen, all that do the work of the city. We thank you for them, and we thank you for your blessing upon us. God, we thank you for your blessing upon this nation as Saddam Hussein was captured. We just are grateful for the meaning of that. And we thank you for this holy season that's upon us now with Christmas. And we pray that we would be mindful of that which was done 2,000 years ago that affects today. Father, give us wisdom. Give us understanding that we can deliberate together and come up with a collective solutions to the issues in the agenda tonight. And we just thank you for your presence here. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, as I mentioned a moment ago, this is the holiday season, and I'm sure there's been a lot of festivities already underway in your family, and I want to allow the council, and I'll finish, I'll wrap it up after each member of the council, and Mr. Muir and Ms. Staub and Mr. Olson, if you'd like to say anything, feel free to do so in this regard. Let's just go by position if we can. Councilmember Sutton, anything you'd like to say to the citizens of Haltom City?
I want to say Merry Christmas and thank you for all the volunteers that have helped make Haltom City a great city to live in this year. There's many of you that have done all kinds of things in this city, and we just appreciate each and every one. I pray God's blessing upon each family and home this Christmas season, and wish your family a new year too.
Councilmember Henderson.
I too want to wish everybody here in Haltom City a Merry Christmas and of course a Happy New Year. Had the great honor and privilege to serve the seniors over the weekend at the Fort Worth Christian Center down there on Beach, and what a great feeling it is to get out and volunteer and take part in the festivities of the holiday season. It's Merry Christmas.
Councilmember Williams.
Just want to tell everybody Merry Christmas. Thanks for your volunteer. Thanks for your help. I know you get in a hurry at Christmas time, and sometimes we really forget the real reason for the season, and remembering that God gave us the best gift that we could ever have was Jesus Christ, so we could have eternal life. And so, saying that, just Merry Christmas, drive careful, and we'll see you back in January.
Councilmember Fowler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess looking back over the year, probably the thing that sticks in my mind the most is the fact that we've lost quite a few citizens of ours that have been volunteers and been pillars in our community for many, many years. And I'd like for us all to be mindful of those that have lost loved ones this year. And if you get an opportunity, I know a lot of these people, as I said, were people that volunteered and did a lot, not only in youth programs, but senior programs and just everything in our community they volunteered for and took time to be an integral part of our community. If you get an opportunity, I'd ask everyone to be sure and say a prayer for the families that lost those. If they get a time, give them a Christmas wish. I guess that'd be the best thing that I could see for the rest of the year. Thank you.
Mr. Muir.
Thank you. Really, the only thing I want to say is, at least on behalf of the staff and the just a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, that we do keep in mind of the gift that He gave in His Son, and that that is the reason for Christmas. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Ms. Stott.
I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and let everyone know that I too am very grateful for the things that the city has given me the opportunity to learn, and I guess I'm very special in that I found out this weekend that my son was part of that group that got this gentleman and put him away and caught him, and I thank God for them. And I pray for them, and I hope that they have a wonderful Christmas because they aren't going to be home with us.
Mr. Olson.
I want to follow up on what Brenda said, and I hope we all pray for the safe return of our troops overseas. Also, this is the time of year I like to reflect on the fact that we have all lost loved ones, and they should be in our prayers. And I wish everybody here a very safe and happy holidays.
Councilmember Hurley.
Well, they've said Merry Christmas a whole lot, but I'll say Merry Christmas, and I'm grateful for a city such as Haltom City and the loyal support of all the citizens that live here. I think it makes it a great place to live, and let's hope for the continued support through next year. Thank you.
Councilmember Branson.
By the time you get to place 7, it's already all been said. I'll say Merry Christmas, Feliz Navidad. No one has said it that way yet. I have so many things to be grateful for that you all don't have enough time to spend here tonight to listen to all of them. Like Brenda, I have a brother that is flying reconnaissance over Afghanistan right now looking for the other person that they're hunting over there. So I too am one that wants to keep our troops close to our hearts, and I ask that everyone pray for our troops over Christmas.
And I'll wrap up the wishes to the citizens of Haltom City. Yes, everything has been said. I do want to just underscore the importance, while we're celebrating, to remember those who have got a big old empty place in their life because they've lost a loved one. Holidays are a particularly tough time for them. And anything we can do in paying attention to them, keeping them in mind, will be deeply appreciated. And also our soldiers who are not going to be able to be home. I hope in the middle of all of our festivities, of our well-wishing, of our celebrations together, that we keep in mind those who are on the other side of the world, who are watching out for our interest in helping make our world a better place and a safe place, and paying the price to allow us the freedom to celebrate. So on behalf of all of us, all the citizens of Haltom City and throughout the world, we hope you have a safe and a prosperous and a happy holiday season, the Christmas and the New Year time period. Okay, we'll move on now to with our agenda. The first of these is on there, a presentation by the mayor regarding the focus of council meetings, and I have the next two presentations, and they'll both be very short. One of the major responsibilities I have as mayor is to preside over the meetings of the council and to make sure meetings flow smoothly and efficiently, to maintain order and decorum, to keep meetings focused and moving, and to conduct productive meetings in a professional manner as the council debates and decides the business of the city. And I want to say to our acting city manager, Tom Muir, that I appreciate what he did in our last council meeting when he explained some changes he and his staff made in the agenda format and the order of the agenda to make council meetings go better. And I want to build on that just a little bit tonight and take the process just a step further. Sometime we have, as elected officials, a hard time staying focused on what we're discussing, and that's any failure that we have in this area is my responsibility. Sometimes we get off the subject, sometimes we become redundant, we go on and on with discussion. And I'd like to ask the council tonight, in order to be more efficient and to stay more focused and to keep our meetings moving, since we receive our packets 3 to 5 days ahead and have an opportunity to contact the city manager and his staff regarding any of the issues, and since we do have discussions in pre-council, with all of us doing our homework, we can come, I think, to the meetings ready to take action. And what I want to do in order to build on what Mr. Muir started with his rearranging the agenda a little bit, is to ask the council for a motion and a second when the item is introduced, and then the discussion to follow that. I think we know pretty well, because we've done our homework, what we should do on each of these items. We may need, as the discussion unfolds, to withdraw a motion or to amend or to substitute the motion. And of course there will be exceptions, and I think we may have one item on the agenda tonight where it will take a lot of discussion before we're ready for a motion. But I would like to ask that we just tighten that up just a little bit. And if we do, that will help me keep our discussion focused on the issues and productive, and keep the comments germane to what we're doing. And in all of this, I don't want it all to compromise the effectiveness for efficiency. I want us to take whatever time it takes to have adequate discussion on the items, but I would like to ask for the council's cooperation in this, that we just stay focused, and that's all I wanted to say regarding that item. Any questions or comments from the council regarding those comments? Councilmember Williams?
You want us to make a motion in a second and then hear the evidence?
If we could, and the person who makes the motion has the right of first response, and the person who makes the second has the right of second response. And I think we can stay focused a little bit, but I'd like to try it at least.
I know that's Robert's Rule of Order, the way that, I think that's probably where that came from. And I don't have a problem if that's the way you want to run the meeting. The only problem I have is if a person brings something before the council for us to rule on, and then we go ahead and make a motion and second it before we hear them, then I would think that they would get the feeling that we already had our mind made up.
Sure.
And I think it would make them feel at a disadvantage. I'll play by however y'all want, but if I was a person bringing something to the council, and we open the meeting up, say, all right, we're on agenda item number 3, and read it. Do I have a motion? Well, somebody would make a motion, someone would second it, and then we would discuss it. It can be done either way. I don't have a problem. It just, sometimes I think it would feel like a person would be intimidated and feel like they would be at a disadvantage for that. Just
Point
my
well
opinion.
taken. And that's why I said there will be exceptions, and I think we have one tonight that will be an exception. And I'll try to be astute enough to pick up on that because it is appropriate at times for us to have discussion before we get to the motion. Councilmember Henderson.
Thanks, Mayor. I've got a question. What about public hearings?
Public hearings are an animal all of their own, and we have to go through the appropriate procedure with public hearings. But it's on the action items that I had particular reference to. Yeah. Moving on to the mayor's update that's listed here on the agenda, update on the status of the mayor's previously announced initiatives. I announced in the October 20th council meeting 2 initiatives that I would be bringing forth. One was for a stricter ethics policy, and the other was for the formation of a mayor's committee of citizens to evaluate Haltom City issues and bring forth recommendations to help Haltom City move forward to accomplish our proud and progressive motto. And I want to give the citizens, I've had a number of citizens ask about that. I've had the media ask on a number of occasions when that will take place. Where are we on those 2 initiatives? And I want to just make a statement regarding that. In my judgment, both of these items still have merit, but I want to put both of these matters on hold for a while for the time being with the intent of coming back to them at a later time. I'm not forgetting those. I just think the timing right now is not conducive to achieve what I would like to. So for the moment, both of those items are on hold, but we will come back to them. Questions or comments on that matter? Councilmember Fowler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you would, though, I would like that ethics policy. You and I both agreed on that, and I would like for if you would get me the rest of the information that you were trying to compile on that.
Okay.
If you don't mind, so that I could look at it.
I'll be more than glad to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, we move now to the announcements, and I think our public information officer, Fran Burns, has an announcement to make about Christmas decorations and lightings.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. The Haltom City Beautification Board stays very busy during Christmas by sponsoring the community tree lighting, the neighborhood decorating contest, and this past weekend on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, one of our members worked with the Transportation Authority of Fort Worth to make sure that the buses came through Haltom City to see our Christmas lights, and we had about 1,200 people come through, so it was a real nice thing for us, for people to come and visit Haltom City and see us in a really positive light, you might say. But this evening, I'm going to make an announcement about the winners of our neighborhood decorating contest. This has been going on since 1986, and our board volunteers go out and judge the entire city. They break the city into 6 sections, and for each section they pick out 3 individual winners. So I have those results this evening. But they also try to award neighborhoods for participation. And for every street that's 90% decorated, they give them a decorating award. And up until this year, we used a kind of a large blue sign with the years that the neighborhood had won this award. And we decided to make it look a little bit nicer and update the signs. So this is what it'll look like. And thanks to our Public Works people for getting the signs together and for agreeing to actually post the signs on the neighborhood blocks. These will go on the top of the street signs. So we look forward to seeing those on the 5100 block of Roundtree Court, Georgian Drive, Maryview Terrace, and Starlight Circle. So congratulations to those streets for their participation in the contest and working together as neighbors to make their streets look nice for the holidays. Okay, I'm going to run through the 18 winners of the individual awards. Some of these are for most creative, best use of lights, or best use of a theme. At 2008 Owen Street, Frank Fernandez. At 2012 Moline, Linda Western. At 5017 Catalpa, Geneva Zapata. And that's for Section 1, the south end of town. In Section 2, at 3273 Earl Street, Deborah McConnell. At 4908 Fossil Street, Louis DePorto. And at 3125 East Ridge, Susan Bell. On Section 3, 3700 Layton Avenue, Joyce Childers. At 4937 Jordan Park, Charles Burgess. And at 4913 Stanley Keller, George Barnes. At Section 4, 5713 Kelly Court, J.C. and Kathy Harris. At 5000 Roundtree Court, James and Sandra Hunter. And at 5774 Fall Creek, Kelly Simpson. At Section 5, which is the Diamond Oaks area, we have 5804 Diamond Oaks South is the Springers, Clyde Springer. And then the next two addresses we seem to have a problem with, so we're going to check on those and verify them. And we'll let you know who they are. But in Diamond Oaks, I'm sure you know that it's very highly decorated over there. In Section 6, most creative is 5337 Parkview, Mr. and Mrs. Gary Marsden. 5648 Whitley Road is Mr. and Mrs. Juvenal De La Rosa. And at 5400 Parkview, Mr. and Mrs. Steve LaFoon. And we want to thank the Haltom High School National Honor Society students, members, and the student council members for acting as volunteer judges this year, too. And I also want to recognize Mary Spencer. She's our neighborhood decorating contest chairman, and she's a volunteer as well. It's a lot of work to put this together. So thank you for your time, and I hope you guys will get out before the season's over with and look at our lights here in Haltom City. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burns. You might want to remain there for just a moment in case someone has a question or comment. Mr. Muir?
I just had something, and I guess we should have talked about this before. Those addresses that you gave, can you get with our webmaster and post those tomorrow?
Sure.
For anybody that
Yeah.
wants to know those addresses, please.
Sure will.
Members of the council, any comments regarding the information Ms. Burns has brought forward to us at this time? Thank you, Ms. Burns. I guess there's still a part of a child in this 62-year-old body of mine. I love to look at these lights, and Haltom City's got some of the neatest, best lights of any place I've seen, and I really appreciate what our citizens have done to decorate. Sure does look nice. Councilmember Williams, I believe you have an announcement.
Yes, George Fowler with our Parks and Recreation is not here tonight, so I'm going to make an announcement for him. He and Bobby Arthur with our Senior Citizen Center were a very big help in putting on the Christmas senior feed at the Christian Center on 28th Street that Tracy mentioned earlier. There were probably over 100 volunteers. They had some Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. They had a choir that came in and sang. We had quite a few of our city employees that came down. Not only did they feed meals there at the center, they delivered meals to a lot of people at homes, and a very good time of fellowship, and quite a few people on the council, and also from the various VFW. And I'm not going to get every lodge because I should never said that one because I can't name it, but there was a lot of people that turned out for that, and it was a very big success. So if you see Bobby Arthur or George Fowler, pat them on the back, tell them how much we appreciate for what they do for the city. Thank you.
They really did a great job. Councilmember Fowler.
I don't guess it's an announcement. Miss Burns, and I don't want to miss anyone myself, but I know that Mr. and Miss Blocker put in a great deal of time on the Christmas tree, or not Christmas tree, on the bus tour, and I just want to take a minute to tell them thanks for all their hard work. They spent numerous nights up there, I know, and put a lot of effort forth. So if there's anyone else, and also Mr. and Miss Henry Wright, they both of those couples have been involved in council and boards and commissions and every type of volunteer effort that we've had in the city, and I want to take a minute to thank them also.
Kent Flynn, our Economic Development Director, has an introduction to make tonight, I believe.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm really excited to introduce our newest member of our administrative team. Susan White is our new Business Development Coordinator. She's coming to the job to help us maximize economic development opportunities for the city and to launch some new programs for the department. She also will be working with existing businesses. She's an 11-year resident of Haltom City. She brings with her a background of geographical information systems, which she will soon put to use in developing a web-based inventory of available buildings and properties of the city. She comes to us most recently from the Trinity River Authority. She's also worked for the North Central Texas Council of Governments, and that experience in working with their Information Services Department will be particularly valuable in our efforts to develop economic development opportunities in conjunction with the Cotton Belt Commuter Rail, which will be traversing Haltom City, and also in renewing our enterprise zone. Susan also will be helping in many areas of business retention. She has a degree from the University of Texas at Denton, and North Texas, I guess it is. Susan, why don't you come up here and let people get a look at you, the audience at home and audience here.
Hi, everybody. As Kent said, I have lived here for 11 years, and I've seen a lot of positive changes since I've moved here. And I think Haltom City has a lot of potential for real economic growth, and I'm excited about applying my experiences to see these projects through. Once again, I'm very happy to be here. This is a great job and a great opportunity for me as well. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome to Haltom City. One thing I want to mention in the way of announcements, on Friday evening we had an opportunity for the employees to have their annual Christmas party, and it was a great event. It was an opportunity for us to say to our employees, just a small way perhaps, but a way nonetheless, we value who you are, we value what you do, we appreciate your service to Haltom City. And from what I could tell, everybody had a lot of fun. And a very enjoyable occasion, and I'm glad we're able to do that for our valued employees here in Haltom City. Councilmember Williams?
Mr. Mayor, I don't know where this photo came from. It was just passed out. It looks like, I've got a photo here. It looks like Tracy Henderson's on the far left, and Trey, and myself, and Mr. Sutton, Miss Bransom. And it looks like you. And can you look this and put it in the minutes and see if that's us singing Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer? I know everybody won't laugh in the audience about that, but
I
99%
probably need
of them will.
to explain a little bit about the ramblings of Councilmember Williams here, and what he's just, the keg of worms he's opened up. One of the things our sweet city secretary did to elected officials is just announce that we're coming up on stage and we were going to do a karaoke rendition of Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. And the way this picture looks, I'm the grandma that got run over by the reindeer. I have no idea what I was doing at that particular point, but we had a lot of fun. Councilmember Fowler said, people either look real good with karaoke or they look real bad. And we didn't look real good, but we had a lot of fun, and the employees did too, and that's what it was all about. Our employees are a great asset to us, and to be able to get together and enjoy an evening like that was very pleasant. Speaking of the city secretary, you may want to wish her happy birthday. Today's her birthday, and if she wants to tell you how many that is, that's up to her. But Brenda, happy birthday. 29? Yes. 29. Okay. Okay, let's move then to the consent agenda. We have items number 1, 2, and 3. Item number 4 has been pulled off for separate action. I'm in line for a motion regarding accepting the consent agenda. Councilmember Williams?
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda as you read it.
Councilmember Sutton?
That's for a second.
Have a motion, a second. Any discussion? If you will, Councilmember Fowler?
Is that including the clarification that was given to us in pre-council or the minutes? Okay.
Okay, that is reflected in that. Okay. If you will, register your votes, and that passes by unanimous vote. And you notice that Councilmember Averett didn't vote, and the reason for that is not here tonight, and we do miss Councilmember Averett. Mr. Muir, you want to address item number 4, introduce that, and then we'll take action at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 4 is the monthly financial report, except it's not going to be monthly. It'll be covered 2 months, October and November. So it'll probably be an abbreviated report.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully.
What I'll do is I'll report on year-to-date through November 30th, since a lot of the items that were highlights for October also carried through to November. what you have in your packet is the individual statements for October 31st and November 30th. Both of them are for current month and year to date. What you'll see is through November, we are about 17% into our budget year. So what I'll do is give some highlights for the specific funds that are either ahead of that or behind that, and the specific reasons why. General fund revenues were at approximately 12% through November 30th, and this is because our property taxes we collect largely in January. The due date deadline before they're considered delinquent is January 31st, so we'll see that by January 31st, the general fund will be significantly ahead of that percentage measurement. Also affecting general fund revenues is our electric franchise fees are paid one time annually, and that's usually in April. So we'll see that that will get us ahead as well once we reach that point. General fund expenditures were at approximately 18% through November 30th. There are many expenditures that we incur at the beginning of the year for annual dues and various conferences. So everything else is very much in line with what we've budgeted for fiscal year 2004. Water and sewer fund revenues that are approximately 16%, and that's right in line with where we should be with this budget year. Water and sewer fund expenses, we're at approximately 14%. We budget for debt service and capital expenditures. Our debt service is paid largely in February and August, so our expenditures should be slightly below the percentage measurement through November 30th. The Crime Control and Prevention District Fund, total revenues are at approximately 21% of budget, and this is because we received a criminal justice grant in the last 2 months of approximately $21,000. Total expenditures for the Crime Control District Fund were at approximately 12%, and that's in line with budget for this time of the year. The Economic Development Fund, total revenues were at 5% of budget, and that's because the fiscal year 2004 budget included a large bond issue, which we actually issued in September of 2003. And we'll see when we get farther into the year with the revised budget, we'll put that into the right period. All the other funds that are presented through November are very much on track for fiscal year 2004. There's no significant variances whatsoever for those. The sales tax collection charts that you have in your packet are actual cash collections through November 30th, and that is for sales incurred through September 30th, but we've actually received the cash collections through November 30th. We've also presented the city's investment portfolio, and there's no significant variances with that at this time.
Questions or comments by the council? Thank you. Bridget, Mr. Muir, comments from the city manager. We need a motion to accept the financial report for October and November, please. Councilmember Henderson.
Move to approve the financial report.
Councilmember Sutton.
That's for a second.
Have a motion, a second. If you would register your vote. And that passes by unanimous vote. Item number 5 is a public hearing, and we'll ask Mr. Pliska, if he will, to come forward and introduce this item at this time.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, citizens of Haltom City. This item is to conduct a public hearing and consider the application of Laurie De Oliva for the zoning change request from the C3 Commercial District and the M1 Industrial District to the PD C3 Planned Development Mixed Uses Commercial District on tracks 1A1 and 1A2 in the J.N. King Survey Abstract 896, containing approximately 3 acres of land located on the west side of Denton Highway and locally known as 5527 Denton Highway. The accompanying ordinance is ordinance number O-2003-040-15, consideration and or action regarding the approval of an ordinance amending ordinance number O-2002-03215 as amended, the comprehensive zoning ordinance of the City of Haltom City, Texas for a zoning change from the C3 Commercial District and the M1 Industrial District to the PD C3 Planned Development Mixed Uses Commercial District on tracks 1A1 and 1A2 of the J.N. King Survey Abstract 896, containing approximately 3 acres of land located on the west side of Denton Highway, locally known as 5527 Denton Highway, and this is the first reading of said ordinance. The site is located on the west side of Denton Highway. The applicant is requesting a zoning change in order to develop the site as a mixed-use commercial center. The existing zoning is M1 industrial and C3 commercial, and the land use at this time is vacant property. I list for the council the adjacent zoning and land uses. Access to the property will be from Denton Highway. The site is designated as commercial according to the city's comprehensive land use plan. Therefore, the requested rezone would be in compliance with said plan. Legal notice regarding the public hearing was published in the Northeast newspaper on November 24th, 2003. Property owner notification for all property within 200 feet of the site were mailed out on October 3rd, 2003. 12 properties were notified. Staff received 0 in favor and 0 in opposition. At the meeting on December 9th, 2003, the P&Z Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the zoning change request from the C3 to the PDC3 Plan Development Mixed Use Commercial District on this zoning case, and I formally submit the attachments for your review, which include the PD requirements, the exhibit site plan as Exhibit A, and zoning information for your review.
Members of the council, any questions for Mr. Pliska on his introduction to this item? Thank you, Mr. Pliska. Since this is a public hearing, I'll open the public hearing at this time. This will allow, first of all, the applicant to have an opportunity to address the council if they wish, and then we'll open it to members of the audience if they wish to speak either for or against. I believe you represent the applicant. Anything you want to say to the council, or just be available if there are any questions? Members of the council, any questions for the applicant? Okay, I believe there are none. Are there any members of the audience who wish to speak either for or against the request for this planned development mixed use? Okay, there being none, I close the public hearing and we move now to the corresponding ordinance. Councilmember Hurley?
You in line for motion?
Yes.
I move that we approve ordinance 02003-040-15.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to second. I'd just like to add that the applicant didn't want to get up and speak on that. We'd already went into deep detail in this in pre-council, and that's the reason
Right.
they didn't want it. So it's not just like a slam dunk deal. We've already discussed it.
Any discussion on the motion before us? Okay, there being none, if you will display your vote. And that passes by unanimous vote. We move now to item number 6, which is also a public hearing. And Mr. Pliska, would you like to introduce this item, please?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is to conduct a public hearing and consider the application of Mr. William Rucker for the zoning change request from the C3 and C4 commercial district to the PD commercial for auto sales, motorcycle sales, repair, and paint and body on lots 9R and 11, Block 2, JW Acres subdivision, containing approximately 2.187 acres of land located on the east side of Belknap and locally known as 5518 East Belknap. The accompanying ordinance is Ordinance O-2003-041-15. Consideration and or action regarding the approval of an ordinance amending ordinance number O-2002-03215 as amended the comprehensive zoning ordinance of the City of Haltom City, Texas for a zoning change from the C3 and C4 commercial district to the PD commercial district on lots 9R and 11, Block 2, JW Acres subdivision, containing approximately 2.187 acres of land located on the east side of Belknap Street and locally known as 5518 East Belknap, and this is the first reading of said ordinance. As said previously, the site is on the east side of Belknap Street and is the old Don Davis facility. The applicant is requesting a zoning change in order to develop the site for auto sales, motorcycle sales, repair, and auto paint and body. The existing zoning is C3 and C4, and the land use at this time is vacant commercial property. I list for you the adjacent zoning and land uses for your review. Access to the property will be from East Belknap solely. The site is designated as commercial according to the city's land use map. Therefore, the requested rezoning would be in compliance with this plan. The legal notice regarding the public hearing was published in the Northeast newspaper on November 24th, 2003. Property owner notifications for all properties within 200 feet of the site were mailed out on October 3rd, 2003. 16 properties were notified. Staff received 0 in favor and 0 opposed. At their meeting on December 9th, 2003, the P&Z Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the zoning change request from the C3 and C4 commercial districts to the planned development districts on zoning case Z9-03. Therefore, I formally submit the applicant's exhibit as Exhibit A, planning development requirements listed with the ordinance, and site information and property owner notification instruments for your review.
For Mr. Pliska regarding item number 6. Thank you, Mr. Pliska.
Thank you, Mayor.
Do we have the applicant, Mr. Rucker? Are you in the audience?
Yes.
Would you like to address the audience or just be available if there are questions? Either way. Okay. All right. I'll open the public hearing at this time. Members of the council, do you have any questions for Mr. Rucker regarding this application? Okay, there being none, members of the audience, anyone wishing to speak either for or against this application? Mr. Watkins. If you would come forward, give us your name and address for the record.
Bob Watkins, 6140 Blue Spruce Circle, Haltom City. I just wanted to ask a question. I notice this keeps being on the east side of Belknap. I believe it would be the south side. I don't think it's east of anything, but Belknap runs east of.
I thought James got mixed up on his directions.
Do you want to identify the location of that more specifically in response to Mr. Watkins?
It may at times be the east side, but we'll consider the south as well.
Yes, I happen to have a business in the next block down, and I've always considered myself on south of Belknap. I just wanted to make sure. What I really want to make sure is that didn't have any effect on vote technicalities someplace down the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against this? Mr. Grazan? If you would give us your name and address for the record, please.
James Grazan. Right now I'm residing at 6208 Little Fossil Road, Haltom City, Texas. For those of you that don't know William Rucker, he'll make a business that you'll be proud of in Haltom City. He's a good man. He's conducted several businesses. I believe I've never heard anyone call him anything but a very good businessman.
Thank you, Mr. Grazan. Anyone else? Okay, there being no one who wishes to speak either for or against this item, I'll close the public hearing and we move to the corresponding ordinance. And Councilmember Sutton, you had your light on first.
Are you in line for a motion, Mayor?
Yes, I am.
I move to approve ordinance number O2003-041-15, case number Z-009-03, with the change of the wording to the south side of Belknap Street in the last sentence.
Okay, Councilmember Henderson.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. Any discussion on the motion to approve? There being none, if you will register your vote, when we display it, it shows unanimous vote. Item number 7 is also a public hearing, and we'll address that at this time, Mr. Pliska.
Thank you, Mayor. Fortunately, this item doesn't have any compass directions. Consideration and or action regarding the public hearing on an ordinance amending ordinance number O2002-03215 zoning ordinance of the City of Haltom City, Texas, codified as Appendix B to the Haltom City Code 1998 as amended by amending Section 9 Matrix of Uses to require a conditional use permit for auto laundry/car wash and automobile tune-up and lubrication center in zoning districts C2, C3, C4, M1, and M2, and requiring actually this has been struck from there, which would be requiring a conditional use permit for religious institution in all zoning districts. That was struck from this agenda item in executive session prior to this reading, and requiring a conditional use permit for mini warehouse without residential quarters in the M1 and M2 zoning districts and mini warehouse with residential quarters in the M2 zoning district. The accompanying ordinance is ordinance O2003-038-15, consideration and or action regarding the public hearing on an ordinance amending ordinance number O2002-03215 zoning ordinance of the City of Haltom City, Texas, codified as Appendix B to the Haltom City Code 1998, as amended by amending Section 9, Matrix of Uses, to require a conditional use permit for auto laundry/car wash and automobile tune-up and lubrication centers in the zoning districts C2, C3, C4, M1, and M2, and requiring a conditional use permit for religious institutions in all zoning districts. Again, that was struck from this ordinance due to executive session. And requiring a conditional use permit for a mini warehouse without residential quarters in the M1 and M2 zoning districts, and mini warehouse with residential quarters in the M2 zoning district. And this is the first reading of that ordinance. The amendment is being requested to change the uses in Section 9, Matrix of Uses, that auto laundry, car wash, and automobile lubrication tune-up centers uses in the C2, C3, and C4 commercial districts and the M1 and M2 districts. Industrial districts need to be placed in these districts with a conditional use permit requirement, and to recommend a conditional use permit for religious institutions in all zoning districts. Again, that was struck prior to the reading of this. Also to require a conditional use permit for mini warehouses without residential quarters in the M1 and M2 zoning districts, and the mini warehouses with residential quarters in the M2 zoning districts. Briefly, what we've looked at, and we've given you some graphical information in the pre-hearing, that the city is being inundated with these requests for tune-up facilities, auto laundry facilities or car washes, and mini warehouses in the Haltom City area. This does not necessarily exclude these uses in the future. What it will do in a form of exclusion, as well as setting restrictions through the conditional use process to really scrutinize any future applications that we see come before the planning department. We want to be able to bring it to and through the planning and zoning process and the council process for a conditional use permit to simply tighten up these applications. We're seeing economic impacts on existing facilities that are located along Denton Highway, Western Center, and Beach, and I've had actually current owners come to us that their businesses are being impacted with newer businesses coming in. So we want to look at these and issue, and it's asking council this time to put these uses in the conditional use permit process to scrutinize these and possibly place restrictions on these type of uses. And again, the religious institution was struck from this as per executive session.
Members of the council, any questions for Mr. Pliska on the presentation of item number 7? Councilmember Williams.
Got a couple. What's an auto laundry?
Auto laundry is actually a fancy name for a car wash, basically, in which the automobile itself is cleaned and laundered, and I myself am amazed at where they came up with this stuff.
It sounds like an illegal word.
Would that
If
be
you
a detail?
reference it to dirty, possibly.
Yeah.
Would that be a auto detail shop?
Yes, it refers to mainly self-service and automated car washes, where you pull up and you wash your own car, but also the automated ones in which you just simply drive the car through, but also even the ones that are in attendee as well.
Second part. You said we've had some business owners that are in this business. They're complaining about too many of them. We've had some other uses in the past that we put conditional use permits on, and those have been changed back to just regular use, but we put them in a zoning by themselves. Can we legally tell how many of these we can have? It's, I think the market would demand. The demands on the market will tell you whether you need 2 or whether you need 10. Because if you got 10, if the market's not there, they're not going to be there anyway.
That's why we're not denying them, but we're bringing them to you as a conditional use permit, in which we just look at the area, look at the impact, have 6 citizens or 7 citizens on the P&Z to make that decision, as well as council on this process, and bring it in the public hearing arena such that the existing businesses could come in as well and have a voice in it.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further, Councilmember Williams? Councilmember Hurley.
Mr. Pleska, would this not be good subject for the P&Z to study also, along with the classification or zoning for churches?
Well, we did run it.
Instead of creating, I can see an ongoing problem here where eventually we're going to have, depending on availability of property, you're liable to have a flood of car washes or whatever. Would it not be worthwhile for P&Z to look at this and study the problem in our comprehensive land use plan to create a provision for zoning? It's just a question. I don't know if it'd be worthwhile or not. They'd be better qualified.
That is why we're essentially bringing it to you as a conditional use permit, such as you can look at this on a case-by-case basis and make restrictions if you so decide. We have, with the planned development C3 you saw tonight, that includes an auto wash, auto laundry facility. And I have interest in 3 more properties for this. We need to look at a point when we have been, like he said earlier, saturated when enough is enough. And this does definitely have an economic impact. I hear it from the merchants along Denton Highway and even owners of these auto laundry facilities that they're not getting enough business as a result of this diversification into these other businesses that they can't stay open.
Well, all I'm saying is that would this not be better for a comprehensive land use plan study to see if it would fit into these? Because I can see inconsistencies come to the council in ruling on conditional use permits whenever they turn up.
It's time of the essence, because at this point I have potentially 3 other auto laundry services that are looking to move to this area, and I would really like or prefer that P&Z review these applications and council and go through the special use permit process and make this a conditional use permit. If we put it off to a land use plan rewrite, that possibly could be 1 year down the road, maybe 2.
Well, by all means, we'll have to address the issues whenever they come up, but I'm saying for long-term stability in zoning.
That is a way to do it, and that's how we did it with the rewrite of the ordinance. However, that process took almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And I feel very uncomfortable with the fact that I've had numerous existing businesses come to my department and say, look, how many more of these are coming in? I'm already suffering an impact from the one further down the road.
You don't feel like it'll be a problem?
No, sir, I do with the religious institutions. I believe that does need further study, and something along the orders of when we go into the land use plan, that might be a good idea to look at that if you choose the route of some form of conditional use process for those institutions.
Thank you.
Mr. Flynn, Economic Development Director, from your point of view.
I'm just going to reinforce something that James indicated, and especially in light of some of the questions. My feeling is, as far as economic development potential in the community, we have very few opportunities as far as land masses that are really targeted for retail. And where the problem is, our zoning districts are so intense. That is, they allow so many intense uses within each district, the districts that each of these uses are allowed in, that you've got the potential to have some of these uses like the car wash and mini warehouse and tune-up facilities that really are more intense than what you would normally want next to a shopping center, for instance, and would prohibit the ultimate utilization of shopping center properties or the development of them. And so I think really what we're looking at here is just kind of re-evaluating the intensity of some of the uses that are automatically allowed in these zoning districts, and the best tool to do that is the CUP. I don't think it involves a technical investigation like the other use that was listed along here with these that might deserve further study. And as far as taking it on through a later study through the comprehensive plan, I think James is absolutely right. Time is of the essence as far as what land areas we do have left.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. Since this is a public hearing, I'll open the public hearing at this time. Council's had an opportunity to ask some questions regarding this, and now we open it to the public. 81 in the audience wishing to speak either for or against this recommendation. Mr. Eklund, if you will, give us your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Ray Eklund. I live at 2532 Oakwood Terrace, and I'm not actually going to speak for or against it. I hate to so often agree with Mr. Councilman Williams over here, but it has to do with the government's involvement with the people's use of the property. Right? Now, I'm sure that the car wash guy that has the next guy moving next to him has a complaint, right? And I'm sure that the landlord has a complaint every time you guys zone another apartment complex in. And I'm sure the warehouse guy has a complaint every time that we come down and build some more warehouses when we have 40% vacancies in the town. So the zoning issues are difficult, and I just wonder where we should be, and that's all. I just want to bring that up. I mean, you kind of touched on it, but you know, how far do we go in the marketplace to say, you know, this is what we're going to do? You know, if they build 50, you know, car lots or car washes or whatever, then let them fight it out. You know, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Eklund. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak to this matter? If you will, give us your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Linda Cantrell. I'm currently living at 6208 Little Fossil Road in Haltom City. And I just want to say that I think this is an insult to free enterprise. I think the city of Haltom City, if you approve this, that you are limiting your city, and it's going to hurt more people in business than it's going to help.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to this? Okay, there being none, I'll close the public hearing, and we move now to the corresponding ordinance. I'm in line for a motion regarding agenda item number 7. Councilmember Williams.
Don't seem to be having much action on this right now. Appreciate the people that spoke, Mr. Eklund. We always don't see eye to eye, but every once in a while in business facts we see close to each other. I'd hate to pass something tonight, and I don't like conditional use permits unless you're doing something that there's something that's going to be detrimental to the community for health-wise or something. I don't mind conditional use permits, but when you go to pass something like this for just for the benefit of someone else because there's too many, that's what America's about, is competition. That's the reason you can go down to, I'm not going to say a store, you can go down a certain store and you can get a gallon of milk for $1.49. I don't know how much milk is, but say $1.49. And you can go across the street and the milk over there's $1.39. It's being able to have the competition. And I don't think that you're going to have 40 car washes or 20 car washes, or I know we have 2 in the north end of Haltom City. I mean, just south of 820. They're less than half a mile apart from each other. One of them's completely self-service. The new one's coming in is going to have a drive-through. I would like to take some more time and look at this. I'd like to make a motion to probably table it until we can look into it farther. And I don't want to keep anybody from going into business, but I also want to protect the surrounding environment and make sure that we do what's best. We have, like Mr. Eklund says, we have a lot of empty land, and we need to see that we can use it to the best use. So I don't want to hamper ourselves to where we make it impossible. So I would be in favor of making a motion to table it. I don't know how the rest of the council feels.
Okay, is that in the form of a motion to table?
That's in the form of a motion to table it.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Councilmember Fowler?
I have a question. Mr. Pliska said that he had three cases to consider, or maybe in consideration. Is that correct? They're currently there?
Yes, with the passage of the auto wash tonight that's going in on Denton Highway, you have another one that's going further up on Denton Highway that's already submitted development plans for that. That's at the corner of Watauga Road and Denton Highway. You've got 2 in existence on Beach at this time, and there's a third one that has called and is interested in relocating on Beach. And then we've got one more interested in Western Center near Haltom Road. and Western Center, and you have the turtle, sea turtle there at the intersection of Western Center and Beach, as well as the one that impacted, which is very close to that. I'm not familiar with the name of it, but you've got two of them in that corner.
And Mr. Flynn, quickly, if you're still here, I'm taking it the staff's reason for maybe looking at the areas that these businesses are considering locating in is due to the fact, from, as you said, economic. You're going to generate more money out of a retail type operation than you are out of something such as a car wash. Other than property taxes, you don't generate much other sales tax other than the property tax itself. Is that correct?
Right. We're talking about many warehouses as well, and some of these other uses.
Okay, and that's y'all's reason for asking to put it under conditional use permit?
This didn't initiate from my department, but I support it simply because I believe that, and I didn't articulate it very well, but I think our commercial zoning districts and the districts that allow these particular uses allow too broad a spectrum of uses that could hinder the highest and best use of those districts, the vacant land in those districts, particularly shopping centers, because some of these uses, mini warehouse, for instance, are going to prohibit adjacent uses like shopping centers from coming to full fruition. And we need to do everything we can to consider that, I think, and a CUP consideration for these uses, I think, is appropriate.
Okay, well, I can respect and understand both parties. I agree somewhat with the people that have spoken here also, though, that it's, it's whether it's the highest and best use of that land or not. Yeah. If a person has a piece of property and they choose to sell it or develop their own car wash on it, this is free enterprise system here in America, and if we can't, develop our property the way it should be or the way that we choose it to be, as long as it falls under certain requirements, then it's a burden on that property owner also.
I agree with you. I think the proposal is not to restrict those businesses, simply to reconsider what districts they should be in. And I think cities do have the responsibility of looking at future land use. That's what the future land use plan is all about, and zoning is tied to that. I think the implementation of all that concept, though, comes down to the fine detail of what uses are allowed in each district and how broad each district is. And this is just one, I think, Band-Aid, if you will, approach to trying to fix maybe what is a weakness in our current ordinances.
I agree, and I understand that, having sit on the P&Z before, this is a situation that's evolving, constantly. Every day, James and the planning department are faced with some new, unique issue, and they try to do what's best for the city in the future. But in turn, we have to take into consideration of the property owners that are currently there. So I have a great deal of respect for both sides, and it's quite difficult. Would it make sense to possibly put a temporary moratorium or set a time specific to your motion, Councilmember Williams, or would you do that, and then would that give us the opportunity to come back and place those on hold until we make a decision on this?
What period of time would you be looking at?
What do you feel comfortable with, Mr. Pliska?
90 days. Would that give you time?
It would depend on what you wish for us to do. Do you wish to take this back to P&Z and study it further, or?
Would P&Z in, say, 60 days be able to look at it and make a recommendation?
No, the holidays.
Well, after the season, sure. Mm-hmm.
So 60 days would give us enough time?
Possibly.
Okay.
60 would be fine.
I'll restate a motion, but I've got a question probably for Mr. Flynn. Did you say that these auto laundry car washes are not collecting any sales tax?
I didn't say that. I think
I made that comment. I don't know if I'm correct in that, but I would assume that.
Yeah, I think
they should be.
Yeah, I think they probably are. It's a service, so I think that you would be collecting some sales tax.
That's something I'd like to look into over there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to withdraw my original motion.
If you would.
And I would like to restate that I would like to table this item until the P&Z and send it back to the P&Z and put a 90-day moratorium on these uses until on the auto laundry quick lube uses until P&Z can bring that back.
Would that include many? Will that include many
That will
warehouses?
include mini warehouse, and I'll go ahead and say it right now because I know someone in the next 90 days, I see the attorney over there smiling, somebody in the next 90 days is going to come in and want to get around this. And
Mr. Olson.
Can I speak?
Yes.
I'm a little concerned we're getting off the agenda item that we have in front of us. I guess I'm not sure where we're trying to go with this. We've got a proposal to require these uses to obtain a conditional use permit from the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council. We've got some applications that are pending out there. We don't have noticed for tonight a moratorium on these uses. What we're doing is we're going a lot farther than we've got noticed for tonight, and we're going a lot farther than the hearings that have been held on these issues right now. If there's a concern about us interfering with the marketplace on these, I think we're going in the opposite direction by putting a moratorium on them. And maybe what's best is to go ahead and look at requiring a conditional use permit tonight and sending it back for further consideration on whether or not we want to do that. But the moratorium seems to go even farther than requiring a conditional use permit, and I'm not sure if that's what I'm hearing the direction the council wants to take on this. It seems to me we're trying to consider whether to allow them as permitted uses in appropriate zoning districts or to require a conditional use permit instead. But I am concerned about the way this is posted, unfortunately, to go ahead and place a moratorium on these applications when we have applications that may be before the city at the current time. I think that would be deemed inappropriate.
So, if I'm understanding, we need to stay away tonight from the moratorium.
I would recommend, I think the possible motions for tonight are to approve the ordinance, deny the ordinance, or table the ordinance. If you table or deny the ordinance, then these uses, mini warehouses and auto laundry facilities, will continue to be allowed in the zoning district that they're in right now. If you approve the ordinance on first reading, then this will still require a second reading at your first meeting in January before the ordinance will go into effect.
Okay, so the recommendation of council is to approve, deny, or table.
That's correct. And again, if the council does want to go in the opposite direction, I think we need to come back with an agenda item for a moratorium, and we can work with staff on working that up.
Councilmember Sutton, your light was on first, and then Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Question for legal. Could we approve the first reading tonight, but then direct staff to not bring this back for a second reading for 60 or 90 days until Planning and Zoning had a chance to look at it and make any adjustments to it that may be necessary to address our concerns?
Yes, you can do that. I think realistically, what's going to happen if this goes back to Planning and Zoning Commission, and of course you can kick it back to P&Z tonight if you want. If you want further considerations of a specific issue, you can send it back to P&Z. Realize that this ordinance has been to P&Z and they've already made their recommendation to you. So if you do send it back, I always recommend that you give them specific guidelines on what you want them to revisit. Otherwise, they're going to wonder why it's coming back to them. So realistically, Councilmember Sutton, if you approve this on first reading and then it goes back to Planning and Zoning Commission and we obtain a different recommendation, you should redo first reading when it comes back to you. But your motion may have some merit in the fact that second reading is going to be a few weeks away, and maybe if you've got some items or the council has some items that you want to be visited before second reading, that's certainly a possibility here. So if you want to approve this tonight on first reading and have staff come back with some additional recommendations for second reading, you can do that. Or otherwise, I would just recommend sending it back to P&Z if that's the concerns that you have.
Thank you.
Councilmember Williams, your light is on.
Thank you. I'd like to withdraw my, was it the second or third motion? I want to withdraw all my motions I have out here right now.
Okay, so we
Okay,
have no
now-
motion on the floor.
Now I'm fixing to make another one.
Okay, all motions have been withdrawn. We're ready.
The reason I would agree with Mr. Fowler's moratorium is because this council in the past has always had an open mind And if we did have a moratorium and someone brought something in, there is the chance of a variance for our moratorium. So let's withdraw the moratorium, and I want to go back to my original motion to table this, send it back to P&Z, and bring it back to us in 60 days.
Is that motion acceptable
acceptable.
from a legal? Okay. Councilmember Hurley.
Well, I was going to make a different motion and that we approve the ordinance, because basically this whole thing anything that's approved will have to come before the council for a conditional use permit and will be controlled. My only concern a while ago in talking to Mr. Pleska was for a permanent solution to the zoning in case we have a large influx of these things coming in inconsistent with some of the areas. But I believe it'd be in the best interest of business to go ahead and approve this thing, because they'd still have to have a conditional use permit to come before the council to get it.
Okay, let's let my motion go ahead and die. If nobody seconds it, you make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second to Councilmember Williams' motion? Councilmember Branson?
I'll second Mr. Hurley's no.
We don't.
No. Oh, I thought he withdrew his.
Let his die.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Kill it. Never mind the
So we have a motion. Do I have a second? Okay, there is no second. I'll ask one more time, and then we'll declare it dead. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Okay, there's no second. The motion dies. We're ready now for a motion.
I move that we approve ordinance 02003-038-15, and that all requests will have to come before the council for a conditional use permit.
Okay. Councilmember Branson?
I'll second that motion.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, there being none, if you will register your vote. And the motion passes.
Could you read those off for Mr. Gazan?
We'll let the city secretary record that and then read the results into the record.
That motion is Councilmember Williams voting no, Councilmember Fowler abstaining, Councilmember Sutton, Henderson, Hurley, and Branson voting for.
Okay, so the motion passes for approval of agenda item number 7. Members of the council, we've been here about an hour and a half. Do we need to take a stretch break? Let's take 10 minutes and we'll be back in to begin with item number 8.
Judge, but that's for your consideration. I think the names of the gentlemen that the judge submitted were referenced. We were talking about Mr. John White or Mr. Tim Bass, and Mr. Bass is the current municipal judge for Watauga.
Okay.
And that's it.
Thank you for that introduction. Councilmember Henderson, are you ready with a motion?
That is correct, Mayor. I move to appoint John White and Mr. Tim Bass as alternative judges.
Councilmember
Suggested by
Williams?
Cal Knapp.
For a second.
Have a motion, a second. Councilmember Sutton.
That was for a second also.
If I could add something, Mr. Olson may want to, you were talking about the
Right.
An ordinance and pre-council?
Yeah, just again, for clarification, this will be first reading of an ordinance, and we'll bring it to you at your council meeting in January for second reading.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion? Okay, if you will, register your votes. And that passes by unanimous vote of the council. We move now to item number 9. And Mr. Muir, would you like to introduce this item or refer to one of your staff members regarding Little Fossil Road?
Well, actually, instead of introducing it, I'll just let Mr. Grazan make his presentation and then try to respond to what he's got there, if that's acceptable to Mr. Grazan.
Okay. Mr. Grazan, I know you've already given us your name and address for the record earlier in the meeting, but if you do that again, and then proceed, please.
James Grazan. I presently am located at Little 6208 Little Fossil, Haltom City, Texas. I may have worded my request wrong. I go to this many times to give you an example. In the oil field business, to move heavy equipment, large beams, derricks, and such, they use a thing called a boaster. It has a kingpin and it hooks to a truck. In the house moving business, we use a thing called a header. It's exactly the same beam. It's used in exactly the same way. You go on a house mover's yard and you ask to borrow a boaster and he'll run you off. Pretty much the same way in the oil field. So I have a problem with sometimes the language of the powers to be. And therefore, if I have worded myself wrong, I'm going to hope that you'll correct me. The property at Little Fossil has been an ongoing problem with the city of Haltom City, myself, Annabelle Watkins, and Glenda Fisher. Glenda has just recently got into the program, but we've had it since the year 2000. We're looking for a closure. I've came up to this council and complained of selective code enforcement and different things, and one person's interpretation, and you go down the, you think you've learned something and you wait a day and you hear another interpretation, and then you hear another interpretation, to the point that I'm quite like John. I'm quite confused, and that's not really hard to do. But Lyle Beers years ago bought a place at 6208 Little Fossil Road. It was in Birdville when he bought it. Haltom City took it in. He wished to build a shop at his house. He had to come to Haltom City and get a variance because it was residential at that time. They granted him a variance. His business done pretty good, and in the 70s he wanted another shop. A man that, I say in the early 70s, a man that worked here named Roger Prater, a few of you might know him, come out and visited with Lyle and said, well, you know, you've already got a variance. Sure. And they issued a building permit, signed by Darrell Riding. At that time, the property was residential, but the use was industrial or commercial, whatever you want to call a paint, body, and welding shop. That has not really changed. What has changed is I spent many nights up here in this city hall back in the latter 80s and early 90s when they were going to rezone a lot of property. And what did you want? Well, we wanted to be industrial down there. Lyle did. I did. Lyle by this time was getting elderly. Didn't really want to come down that much. But there's several houses in that area that had shops. The shops what paid the rent, folks. What paid the bills, what put the bread and butter on the table. They, at that time, decided that area down there should be industrial. Wait a minute. We got some folks living next door. Got a lady, her property. She doesn't want it industrial. She thinks it'll raise her taxes. Probably at that time it would have. So, henceforth we came up with some of that land down in there being M2, M1 / residence. Pretty much, say what you want to be, we'll let you be. Okay. One of the requirements at that time, well, there were several requirements, but one of the requirements at that time was that if you owned this property and you had a septic tank, to go on city sewer and water. Gosh, that wasn't too big a deal because everybody had problems with septic tank, and that's what they wanted to do in the first place. Lyle had done that back in 1961, I believe, paid his $300, went on city water and sewer. I've got some paperwork here, but in the essence of time, I'd rather not pass it around. If anybody'd like to see it, I want you to know. I have a map here that I feel like clearly shows, this was provided by James Poliska in a prior hearing, that clearly shows this lot to be zoned M2. It seems like that there's a big discussion between staff and myself as to what part of that lot's M2. I say the whole lot's M2. Another page I have here by James Poliska says there's no dual zoning in Haltom City. Okay, I go along with that. But when we transferred this land to M2, there was a Building A was used as residence. It's been classified that on the tax rolls and everywhere. Never been an argument till the year 2000 with Mr. West Cottongane. He decided that the property behind the building of A could be industrial, but not the property in front of it. Mr. Poliska met with me and Richard Torres, Dennis Black at this same location approximately 8 months ago. I think that's more like 7 months ago, maybe. Anyway, he says that no, the property in front of the building would be considered residential. You couldn't park anything there or anything, have any industrial use there. Wait a minute. He just wrote in this paper here to say this property can't have dual use. Then he changed that to 30 foot off the easement line. Where's the easement line? Well, I don't know. I said, well, I can tell you. I can show you. I can put your foot on it. There's been several discrepancies, but what I'm here for is maybe a motion for a variance to recognize this property as industrial, period. To recognize Building A residence, period. That's all that's the whole argument here. We've received tickets for having junk, trash, and debris, for having stored building materials. Well, if you're M2, you can have this. If you're residential, you cannot. That's the whole problem here. The map shows us to be in M2. You know, some folks say we're residential. And that's what I'd like this council to do. I'd like this council to recognize, number one, that there was a man named Lyle J. Beers that owned a paint, body, and welding shop at this location. It was used for that. It has never stopped that usage. His daughter now owns the business. He's dead. He can't come to fight no more. And we had to buy out, or she had to buy out 2 brothers, and she went to a lady named Glenda Fisher, who said, let me handle that for you, and we'll put these 2/3 on a lease purchase agreement where you can buy them back from me. Fine. Done. Till some members here in City Hall wanted to, didn't see fit. They said, oh no, your land usage has changed. No, land uses haven't changed. Any construction you do, well, that'd change the usage. Therefore, you'd probably not have rights to a grandfather clause. You've given them up. Well, as far as one of the members at the ZBA meeting the other night was, and his opinion was that it was grandfathered in way back when, and should still be. His opinion was that it was grandfathered in when it was given that first variance from the city of Haltom City for the industrial use when it was residential. So maybe I've worded what I want wrong, but I'm hoping there's someone on this council that has a little more intelligence than I that will come up with a reasonable resolution and it be passed here tonight.
If I understand what you're asking of this council tonight is to grant you a variance on that property. Did I hear you correctly a moment ago?
Mayor White, I certainly, I feel like you talking at all, you're basically trying to help us. I'm not sure that the word for it is a variance. You can call it grandfather, you can call it variance, you can call it whatever you wish. What I want is to be recognized that this property is industrial, period. What I want is to be recognized that there is Building A residence on this property, has been, is now, and shall be in the future considered residents, period. That I don't know how you word that so that it fits into the language of the city, sir.
I'm just trying to understand what you're asking. Was the only reason for my question.
I wished I could help you more, sir.
Councilmember Fowler, did you have a... Okay. Councilmember Fowler, did you have a question you wanted to ask Mr. Roseanne?
Well, I guess I wanted to ask Mr. Muir if he needs to direct it to staff. Well, I guess to clarify this went to the ZBA, it's my understanding, and then they granted certain variances or a variance on a portion of it, and then are we unable to do under legal non-conforming, say the industrial use with on-site residents? I asked that earlier, and I guess where I'm confused in this is what direction we can take, or what direction that is it something that staff needs to work out with Mr. Grzan, or is it something that really does need to come before the council?
Trey, Mr. Fowler, I have worked with the staff. Mr. Muir, Mr. Torres was working with us on this. We thought we had pretty much some solutions. I sat down in Mr. Torres' office one day and I said, Mr. Torres, if you don't bring this to a head, if you don't direct your staff to do something, you're not going to be here in a couple months, because everybody in this building runs around you. And then I'm going to be faced with this same problem, sir. He shook my hand and told me that I had nothing to fear. He would be here. If you see him in the building tonight, let me know. I want to thank him. But he's not here. And yes, sir, Mr. Muir has tried to work with us on this. It just seems to be a problem between me and Mr. Poliska and West Cotton Gain. It seems to be growing like a cancer. And I have no other reason than to come to this council and beg you to do something to bring it to a halt. That's what I'm doing, basically, sir.
Well, and I appreciate you coming, Mr. Grzan, and we had the opportunity to speak today, and I know that you've never, in all the years that I've known you to be involved in the council up here, you've never been unreasonable, and in turn, in defense of Mr. Pliska, I know that he watches out for the city, but I know he doesn't try to be unreasonable either. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is Mr. Muir, is this something you're able to maybe sit down and act as an intermediary and us figure out a solution, or does the council, I don't know what options we have as far as, I don't know that we can just start granting variances. We're not the zoning board of adjustments, and I don't know that we have the opportunity to just grant variances at will.
Mr. Fowler, I'm not sure you have the ability to grant variances at will, as Mr. Grzan is requesting tonight. Mr. Grzan and I have met several times. I'd like to think we can come to some arrangement, some sort of resolution to it. I think there's a lot of issues, a lot of complex issues that he brings up that, to be quite honest, I still have trouble understanding, but that's because of my own ignorance or naivete. I'd like the opportunity to continue working with Mr. Grzan in trying to resolve this, but I also understand the frustration that he feels. I'm not sure what the solution is at this point. And I'm not sure what other action the council can take. The attorney may have some advice on that, but I'm not sure what other action you can take other than having him sit down with me and work with me and trying to come up with something and come back to the council with a report. Hopefully we can come up with something. If we can't, I'll bring that back, and again, I'm not sure what recourse is going to be coming after that, but
let me ask you a question, Mr. Grzan. Is that if Mr. Pliska and Mr. Muir, and maybe you ask one of the council members, or we name a council member tonight to be, if someone has time, is willing to volunteer, and maybe work with both parties, and then that way, if it does come back to the council, we'll be able to know firsthand from one of our colleagues what went on or what transpired in the conversations. I don't want to be ignorant to the whole thing, but I'm asked to do something tonight that I don't know everything about from either side. And if that would be suitable to you, I think we might be able to reach some sort of resolution one way or another.
Mr. Fowler, that certainly sounds good, but that's what we've done several times, and I've put so many hours. I'm limited to how long I can stand. I'm going to have to sit down in a minute, but that doesn't bring us to any kind of anything. We've tried to give you some example that we've run across. One example that Mr. Muir and I talked about just the other day, said, well, I believe maybe it was today. He said, well, Jim, the side of this house has never been used for parking equipment and machinery and stuff like that on it, has it? And I said, well, yes, sir, it has. I didn't go into who would have said that. Why was that said? That's a lie. Man, there'd been equipment over that property. Every piece of that property. I can remember Ms. Beards getting on us for parking, overhauling 283 engines on the front porch. It's she designated the lawn for us to stay off of it, but other than that, there was equipment, machinery. Good gosh. Anyway, so whoever gave him that information gave him false information. And who am I to come up and say, he wasn't here back then. Mr. Pliska wasn't here back then. Wes Cottongain wasn't here back then. But yet they're here to tell you what the usage was. And that's what I'm running against, Trey. Just one lie after the other of people that weren't here, that knew. There's two members on this council right here that knows what was down there and what that land was used for. Mr. Williams and Mr. Hurley. Mr. Hurley was a police officer back when he worked train wrecks, probably on that intersection on Carson Street. I bet you $5 he'd been down to Lyle Beer's shop, Oren Beers and the like. And so I don't know that we need a variance. I don't believe that's exactly what I asked for. I don't know what we need, if nothing else, I'd like to walk away with this council saying that we know this exists, we know it's here, and we know it's been here. I can show you some affidavits. I've got them if you'd like to see them. But I believe there's people on this council that know this property was in its usage, was in existence long before any of the current statutes were made. And that may be what I'm hoping for. Maybe I'm hoping for this council just to recognize the property at 6208 as being there, it been there. Maybe that would be sufficient. I don't know. But we're tired of getting tickets for parking a commercial vehicle in on a residential lot. I've got one right here if you want to see it.
Councilmember Fowler, did you have another question for Mr. Grazan?
No, sir. I just was, I guess in an effort to, like I said, without being ignorant to the whole thing, I would like to know the history of the entire piece of property. I know it's been used for more industrial down in that area than anything, but I would hope that I feel like our staff will be fair. I was offering that to Mr. Grazan just for the opportunity for him to have a council member there. That way, it feels like he's having a fair shake from both sides, and I don't know what more I could offer than that. If that's not suitable, I don't know where I can go with it.
Okay. If that's the best we can do, Mr. Fowler, that'll be certain. I would like to walk away from here with something a little bit more concrete than that. I've invested a lot of time, and for a volunteer of the council to give of their time, that's certainly appreciated. But I'm willing to try that. Yes, sir. I would try that. I just was hoping that we'd come to more of a concrete solution than that. We're putting quite a burden on Mr. Muir, and Tom has been most gracious. I'm not knocking him one bit. I'm not knocking Richard Torres. I'm just saying that he thought he had a grip on this, and here we are. Tom thinks he gets a grip on this, and then here we are again. And that's the problem. Now, maybe having a city council person sitting in with us might be helpful.
Mr. Grazan,
that definitely would be a change.
Mr. Grazan, did I understand then that you are amenable to continuing to work with staff, with a member of the council sitting in on that process to bring this to resolution?
Yes, sir, but I'd like some kind of time element put to that. And here we are right in the middle of the holidays, and to ask somebody to volunteer their time, and I would like to put some kind of time element that, like maybe the second city council meeting in January, this will be ironed out, or something like that.
We can give that consideration. I believe our attorney has something he wanted to say, and then Councilmember Williams and Councilmember Sutton following that.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I've had a lot of people look my way while this conversation's been going on. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to give closure tonight to this issue. I think the problem we're dealing with is Mr. Grazan is asking for something that's probably not specifically contemplated under the zoning regulations, and that makes it difficult when we're dealing with a situation that's not provided for. And of course, the council can't just by a vote undo what the regulations say. So what I can say tonight is it sounds like we're proceeding in a direction, and I'm glad to give any input or get as involved as is necessary to help resolve this situation, and I'll make myself available so that if it's possible, we can have this resolved by the second meeting in January.
Okay. Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Grazan, for coming up and standing. Haltom City is unique, always has been. It's never been a cookie-cutter deal where everything is just alike. You got different applications, and you get that zoning book out. It's a big instrument, and I'll take up some from Mr. Pliska. he works very hard trying to do what he can, but he has to work out of that book, and that book tells him, that's his Bible to tell him what to go by. And there's a lot of things in Haltom City that Bible wasn't written for. Split zoning, properties crossing. We got spot zoning all over town. During the years, we've done what we can to try to correct all that, but you always have something like a project like this that falls through the cracks. Mr. Gavin, one of the deals that I'd asked him pre-council was the use of the property, and there was a little difference of opinion of what the use. I know what you had told me what the use of the property was, and I know what staff told me what the use of the property is. And I think you'd asked me earlier this week the difference in or earlier last week, the difference in a storage trailer and a work trailer. And it was a pretty good question that you asked me, and I can show you the difference in them, but I can't sit and explain you the difference of what the two are. I know you said that the previous city manager had told you that he would sit down and work this out with you. And if you tell me that, I believe that. Mr. Muir and I have had a short conversation about that, about what he can do. We still have to follow in the guidelines of this code book that's written for Haltom City. But we have to keep in mind that Haltom City is unique, and it's not exactly laid out like the code book states. I agree with Mr. Fowler. I think if we get someone on board with Mr. Pliska and Mr. Muir, I think we could come to a solution. All of you are very easy to work with. I've worked with all y'all in the past, and I think it's just a misunderstanding. I think if we get maybe a fresh mind down there looking at it and have some input, I think probably by the first meeting in January we could probably have some sort of closure out of the way and be looking toward getting this to where Mr. Guzan can live with it and where the citizens of Haltom City and the council could live with it. That's all I have, Mayor.
Councilmember Sutton, and then following that, I will be in line for a motion regarding item number 9.
Thanks, Mayor. Mr. Gruzan, just a question. What I heard, the request being, and hopefully I want to reiterate this to make sure that I'm understanding, is that the property would be zoned M1 to support the activity that's ongoing there and has been ongoing, but the house there would be zoned as a residential. Is that correct, or am I saying that wrong?
The property, according to the map here, is M2.
Or M2, I'm sorry.
There seems to be no argument about that today. There was until we had a ZBA meeting. Now that seems to be, everybody seems to forget that issue. But the property, what I'm saying is, if we don't have dual zoning, why did we get this ticket for having a commercial vehicle on a residential lot? You know, that's what I'm saying. Where do you,
Yeah.
But to answer your question, sir, the property has always been, since Haltom City took it in, used industrially. There is a house, a residence, whatever you want to call it, Building A is what we call it, is being used as residence. Jim, I started this, this was an issue for Annabelle Beers.
Right.
And now that I've become pretty limited physically, which I don't know how long that's going to last or if it will be temporary or forever, it may be an issue for me, and where I'll need to be close to where I can do something to be gainfully employed.
Okay.
I don't believe I'll be crawling under many more houses. I don't see myself jacking up many more beams. But the doc says we'll wait and see. However, the property has always been industrially used.
And what you're asking is that the council or that the city would recognize the
Building
M2 along with the residential house that exists.
I don't really care to label it residential. I care to say that the property is M2. I'd like the council to recognize that. That's what the map shows it.
Okay.
Presently, building A is residence, period.
Right.
That's, that presently it is residence, and the council accept that. And I believe that is the end of my issues. I believe
Is that to imply that then the house would be zoned in a residential?
Well, I don't believe that it needs to be zoned residential. I just believe it needs to be used residential.
Okay.
I believe in the near
Okay.
future that will probably change. Now, I'm saying near, I'm saying 5-6 years. If this old house burnt down, we certainly wouldn't build a house back there. But at this particular time, it certainly has been comfortable for me not to have to climb steps to get to my bed.
I see.
Did that answer
Thank
your
you.
questions?
That did. I was just going to ask Wayne a question.
Thank you, Mr. Grazan.
Thank you very much. What are the reasons why we went away from split zoning? And maybe James Pliska might need to comment on that, but maybe the attorney could just very briefly tell us why in Haltom City did we decide to get away from split zoning on a single property?
Because it's a nightmare to deal with. We have issues that come up all the time. Residential zoning and industrial zoning are incompatible with each other. The zoning regulations that you've adopted are similar to what most cities adopt. They recognize certain non-conforming uses. There are situations that have developed over the years where you have incompatible land uses, and our ordinance recognizes that. But remember, our non-conforming use regulations put limitations on grandfathering, and those limitations are abandonment and destruction of uses, etc. If a use is abandoned over a period of time, or if the use is destroyed, then it cannot be commenced again. And the reason for that is because the ordinance strives to try to achieve compatibility, try to get rid of the non-conforming uses. They do turn into problems, and they cause people issues. And that's what our regulations are designed to do. Now, in this situation, I don't know the specific facts involving Mr. Grazan's property. I don't know what's there, and when I learn the facts, we may be able to figure out a solution, or certainly we'll be able to come up with options for the council to explore, and it'll be your decision on how you want to treat this. But in a nutshell, it sounds like we do have a situation where the ordinance probably doesn't recognize the different uses continuing on the same properties out there. And we're going to have to look at what our options are in that regard. And of course, there's always the option of amending the ordinance if the council wants to. And we can start allowing split zone lots, or we can allow nonconformities to continue. But those traditionally do cause problems, and those are the issues that your staff deals with on a daily basis if we don't try to regulate them.
And one quick question, and what I'm hearing in that implicitly is that M2 does not have a provision in there for a residential house to exist.
Apparently so. But,
Okay.
again, I'm not familiar with the specific facts involving this property.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
I think we've discussed this issue a great deal tonight for about 45 minutes or 35 minutes, and we've covered a great many things. I'm ready for a motion regarding what the will of the council is regarding item number 9. Councilmember Fowler.
Mayor, I'd like to move as we previously discussed, and if it's amenable, whether it's amenable or not, that we ask staff to, being Mr. Pliska and Mr. Muir, to work out, see what we're able to do or what actions we need to take from here and on an ongoing basis, and then ask if someone on the council has time to be an intermediary or a liaison between the parties, and That way, if it does come back for the council to take a certain action on, that would give us the opportunity for someone to be knowledgeable on this from both sides. That way we can make a fair and unbiased decision on it, and maybe bring it back to the council by the end of January.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Do I have a second? Councilmember Williams?
I'd be willing to second that after I find out who he's going to volunteer to do that.
I'll volunteer you.
David Avery.
Would that be the right thing to do in Christmas spirit? Is there anyone on the council that would you mind, or do you have time? You have a history of you or Mr. Hurley. If not, I'll take the time to do it. I don't have a problem, but
call it, Hurley.
Heads it is.
Okay,
Mr.
we have
Williams,
a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? There being none, if you'll register your vote. And that passes by unanimous vote.
That's what
Mr.
John-
Muir?
Can I ask
Councilman Williams is liaison? Okay. Just want to make that clear.
Okay, we have addressed item number 9. We move now to item number 10, the capital improvement status report. Mr. Muir, you've been awfully quiet tonight. Would like for you to tell us what's going on in Haltom City regarding our capital improvements. Following that, we'll have our economic development status report.
All these short people that talk before me, I tell you, I've got to raise this thing. Kent will have to pull it back down for him. I'll try and be brief. This is similar to the financial report. This is the first time I've given this to you since the end of October. So I'll try and be as brief as I can. Broadway, as most everybody knows now, has been open for traffic since November 20th. The project is not finished. The contractor is still dealing with some signalization, curbing, and raising of manholes. If you, on your way home tonight, you'll notice that on Haltom Road, the new signals are in use on the poles, and the signals off the span wire have been removed. So you'll see some new signalization there. Regarding the Lindsay, Revere, and Roxy reports, my report that's in front of you is incorrect, and that I failed to update it. The paving was delayed on Revere. Roxy and Lindsay have been finished, but on Revere, the paving has been delayed. They just finished doing the street concrete paving. They still have the driveways to deal with. On the Mona project, the December 2nd, the council awarded a contract to Reliable Paving for $708,000. That should get started in January and will be complete in August. This will include street reconstruction and corresponding utility infrastructure, including concrete pavement, sidewalks on both sides of the street, and replacement of water mains and service lines, sanitary lines and lateral lines, and storm drain line. The Joy Lee project has been substantially complete, as well as the overlay project on Haltom Road and Walthall. Paving, striping has commenced on Haltom Road. You'll see that as you at least proceed north from Broadway. But those projects are going to be substantially complete very, very quickly. On the Little Fossil Creek improvement project, this is the drainage project with the Corps of Engineers. As you know, the Corps hired Half and Associates. The Corps, Half, and the staff are attempting to execute right of entry agreements with property owners along the Little Fossil Creek to obtain statistical data on the properties. On the sanitary sewer projects, for the administrative order projects, the replacement project in the Big Fossil Creek drainage basin is substantially complete. This is the one that was performed by Circle C. On the manhole rehab, they're about 85% complete. And on the sewer replacement project, phase 3, horseshoe construction is about 80% complete. They should be finished by January of 2004. The building projects, the Municipal Service Center, phase 1 has been substantially complete, and staff has moved into the building. We had a little brief open house for council a little over a week ago to show you all that facility. The demo of the old administration building has commenced, and I think you won't find much of it there if you drive by there now. For the rec center, we've metal stud framing and exterior drywall sheeting is almost complete. Structural steel joists and decking are completed. Fire sprinkler piping is completed in the new and the existing gym. Site paving is being formed for placement. Roof insulation has been stocked, and the rough end for the HVAC is almost complete. The face brick is complete on the new gym and has started on the curtain wall window systems. Plumbing and electrical has been roughed in throughout the multi-purpose areas, and the project is slated for completion in March of '04. This was originally slated for completion of December of this month. It was originally slated for completion. We've had some delays in that. We had delays in trying to get out of the ground. That project just has a black cloud over it. It just can't seem to catch a break. But it is kind of turned a corner a little bit now, and it's proceeding well. The Central Fire Station project is going very well. It's about 95% dried in. Exterior masonry and stucco is complete. The window framing is complete. The majority of glazing has been installed. Interior window and door frames are currently underway, and the metal stud wall framing is complete. The building is fully insulated. Drywall on the second floor is complete, and about 50% of the drywall on the first floor is complete. Interior CMU units are being primed for painting. Roof trim gutters and downspouts are being completed. The plumbing piping is completed and lines are 75% insulated. The shower units have been delivered for the site to the site for installation. Fire sprinkler piping is completed, and this project is slated to be opened, be finished in about 30 days. One side note. There's a house that's been adjacent to that property and next door to the current station number 1, 3304 Meadow Oaks. It was owned by Mr. Joe Reynolds. As you know, the city purchased that property several months ago on the condition that Mr. Reynolds be allowed to reside in the house for 5 additional years, essentially rent-free. Sadly, Mr. Reynolds passed away several weeks ago, and the staff has been working with Mr. Reynolds' family on clearing out his possessions, and we anticipate that to be completed shortly after the holidays. And then that house will be demoed at the same time. Central Station 1 will be demoed. So we'll only be mobilizing once for the demolition. Library project. Staff sent out RFQs for architects. We got 14 responses. We narrowed it down to 5 firms and interviewed those firms. The selection committee narrowed it down to 1. I'm currently negotiating with that firm on a contract to perform the design of the new library, and that will be presented to you sometime in January as far as a contract for that. The beautification project on Belknap, the streetscape project, it's still started on the east side of Belknap. New irrigation and planning. It's still slated for completion at the end of the year. They're going to have to hump it to get there. They haven't, TxDOT hadn't changed it, but they got to hump it. But they still say they can do it. I know. And the last thing, the water tank repainting project. We've on December 2nd, the council did award a contract to Utility Service Company for $144,000. That'll take place next month. The project includes the removing of the interior coating and refinishing of the interior surfaces, and cleaning, preparing, and overcoating the exterior surfaces of the tank. Contractor will also fabricate and install replacement hatch, roof vent, safety climbing device, and the level gauge. And with that pretty much completes the CIP report.
Councilmember Fowler has his light on first, and Councilmember Williams.
I want to take a minute, Mr. Muir, just to thank not only you, but a big thanks to those in Public Works that worked on the project on the Haltom property, the cleaning up of that. It looks
different.
different is an understatement. Y'all done a fantastic job. I want to thank those people in Public Works and for the hard work. I know that thing has drug on for 8 months and nothing was done, and then now it seems like in a month and a half y'all got on it and completed it, and it looks fantastic. Thanks for that. I want to also just driving around, just from my perspective the other day, and looking at from coming from Carson headed west, and I look up and I see a nice new facility that we can all be proud of, and a new fire station, and then you cross Denton Highway and you drive down a brand new Broadway, and there's a lot of good things happening right now, and I want I guess we should all be thankful and be appreciative of those, and just want to tell you all and everyone, not just Public Works, but everyone that's been involved in all the departments, thanks for all their hard work this year, and look forward to working with them next year.
Thank you.
Councilmember Williams.
Thank you. Mr. Muir, I get quite a few calls on the streetscape on Belknap, and for the benefit, I think most of the people here in the audience know, but those in the TV audience might wish to know. I get a lot of questions, won't know if we're funding that wholly, and we're not, and I would like to know if you would like to describe that and how that's working.
Certainly. The funding of that project, the contract itself is about $358,000, of which the city is paying 20% of it, or about $71,000. This is not a city project. This is a TxDOT project, which, as we all have come to painfully know, if you want their money, you got to do things their way. And things kind of drag on a little bit. It's I don't know, other than saying it is what it is, it's a TxDOT project, and they've all had their hitches. But
So Haltom City is only responsible for 20%. TxDOT's responsible
of
for
funding that, yes. And TxDOT is managing that project. The city is not. The city has some say-so in it, but this is
So if
not
we don't
anything
get
that we manage.
If we don't get finished by the end of December, only 20% of that's our fault.
Thank you, Mr. Muir. I believe we're ready now to go to item number 11, Economic Development Status Report. Mr. Kent Flynn.
Thank you, Mayor. See if I can get situated here. Glad to report on the activities of the Economic Development Department and economic development in general. Development activity in the city has continued at a healthy pace. We have 41 COs for the last 2 months. Construction activity includes $1 million shopping center on Belknap, a permit for $1.5 million at State Fair Foods for an addition, and several remodels of buildings along Airport Freeway and elsewhere in the city for new businesses that have been moving in. We have 3 retail developments under construction or with plans submitted. We've talked about 2 of them tonight, both of them on Denton Highway, one at Western Center, one at Browning. And then, of course, the new shopping center on Belknap. That's the $1 million project that I spoke of just a minute ago. With regard to retail, I had the opportunity to attend a national conference recently that focused on current and future trends in the retail industry. It's very enlightening, pointing out and providing crucial information on the latest trends and tools for analysis of successful shopping center development. Basically, retail is very competitive in this country right now, and retail is really going through a process of reinventing itself. When I did retail shopping center development 10 years ago, the newest animal, if you will, was the power center, the big box power center. Well, today there's new trends away from that and towards other developments, mixed-use developments and other trends that we need to be cognizant of and work with in order to encourage shopping center development here in Haltom City. So it was a very valuable experience to go to this conference. Currently, the Economic Development Department is participating in the planning of the Cotton Belt Commuter Rail. I currently serve on the Regional Rail Corridor Study Committee, and this committee is studying opportunities for commuter rail service along the Cotton Belt rail line from downtown Fort Worth to DFW Airport. In the weeks ahead, with Susan White's help, we will be turning in new demographic projections for what we see as future development along the Cotton Belt here in Haltom City. And the reason we'll be doing that is to help us in our efforts to pursue the location of a station on the Cotton Belt here in Haltom City. Another development that has occurred recently that I'm pretty excited about is in the way of helping us to achieve a long-term department goal that we've had to create a website that features an interactive inventory of available properties and buildings. Recently, just last week, I guess it was, we attended a meeting at the Quad Cities, and we have contracted with the Quad Cities group to help them implement a web service which will drastically improve our ability to update the inventory of available properties. This is a contract that the Quad Cities has entered into with a new group that is providing information services to the Metroplex, to the real estate community, called Excelligent. And that web service will basically inventory new listings, commercial listings, real estate listings. So that will do two things. It will help us get a handle on the current status of the ever-changing nature of listings of properties in Haltom City, but it'll also help us build a comprehensive listing of available properties to integrate into our web page that we want to develop for the department here in Haltom City. Another, I guess, a Christmas present, I guess, that we have is the Crossroads newsletter that the Economic Development Corporation puts out. Will be available. The year-end newsletter will go out before the end of the year to the citizens of Haltom City and new businesses, or all businesses, I should say. And in this year-end edition, we're going to basically draw attention to and feature new businesses that have located here lately that maybe some of the citizens are unaware of, so that we can help attract shoppers to those businesses and maybe develop some more sales tax for the city in conjunction with our Shop Haltom City campaign. Going back to the another kind of sideline project that we've been working on, and that is the for sale properties. We continue to work with the tax attorneys to bring tax foreclosure properties to sale. We're looking forward to having another sale in January of additional properties, and also to bring back some properties that did not close during our previous sealed bid sales. Again, those sales we're anticipating on having in January. So we'll have some more properties for sale, hopefully raise some more revenues there. With regard to new prospects, Texas Patios has sold their building on Airport Freeway at 5742 Airport Freeway. They are downsizing and relocating as a result of that. This does two things. It brings us a new business to their previous building. Rental One is going to be locating a new operation there. So we wish them luck and success. But then also it provides us an opportunity to try to find an alternative site for Texas Patios to relocate to. And Susan met with them last week and presented them with a package of sites already implementing or utilizing the Excelligent website service that I spoke of a minute ago. So we'll continue to work with Texas Patios to try to help them find a site here in Haltom City. CVS Pharmacy is nearing the completion of their site acquisition stage that they've been involved in for over a year to try to locate a site on Belknap here in Haltom City for a new drugstore. In order to assist them in their efforts to wrap that up, we are going to be doing a site search for one of the existing businesses that is located at the site where they're going to be locating, and that's a prerequisite for them to locate there, is to find an alternative site for that business. And then to wrap it up, we have obtained an application for an economic development assistance grant for a business that wants to expand their office building on Airport Freeway. So we'll be processing that in the weeks ahead.
Members of the council, any questions? Councilmember Sutton.
Just a quick one, Kent, on the Excelligent
Yes.
website. Is that going to be a link off of Quad Cities or Haltom City, or how will people access that website?
The service is provided to member realtors and member cities And what we did was, through the Quad Cities, we were obtaining a free membership. So we will have a link to the City of Haltom City website for that. And so very shortly, well, I guess it's up now, isn't it, Susan? The Excelligent website. You can go today to the Excelligent website and click on Haltom City and see a listing of properties. What we will do in the next few weeks is work with our webmaster to get that link established so that when you go to the Haltom City site, you can automatically cross over to the Excelligent site.
Okay, so the citizens will have access to that
Yes.
website through the Haltom City website.
Yes,
Fantastic.
and in addition to their access, we'll have access to a more detailed and a service that we'll be able to manipulate the data and actually integrate it into more information that we'll be working up. So, serves a lot of purposes. We're
Thanks.
Real excited about it.
All right.
Councilmember Williams.
Mr. Flynn, would you like to give the address of the website out for Haltom City where someone doesn't get some other silly website in place of it?
Well, you're talking about the city website? HaltomCityTX.com. I know there's an alternative one, is there not, Tom? Or is that the main website?
That's the one they use.
Okay.
There are several alternatives.
HaltomCityTX.com.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. We move now to item number 12, resignation of board members. Do we have any of those tonight? There being none, item 13 is appointment and reappointment. Do we have any of those? Okay, there are none. Visitor Citizens Forum, any speakers' cards filled out? We move then to item number 14, attendance requirements. Councilmember Avery is not here tonight, and at the last meeting, Councilmember Henderson was not. Councilmember Williams?
With the permission of the council, I would like to excuse Mr. Averett and for this meeting and Mr. Henderson for the last meeting he missed.
Have a motion. Do I have a second? Councilmember Hurley?
Second.
Okay, will you display your vote? And that passes by unanimous vote. With that, the items on the agenda thus far have been addressed by the council. We move now into executive session as authorized by section 551.071, .072, and .074. And we'll return to open session to take action on any items discussed in executive session that requires action.